Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. I am Fred, I am the chairperson of the Young Actuaries World Cup and today we have the second semi-final of our very first IAA Young Actuaries World Cup. So welcome to everyone. And if we move to the next slide, we'll see the agenda for today. So what to expect in the session today? Well, first, we are going to review a bit the competition, the participants, where we are today, introduce the three judges that we have. And after we come to the core of the session, which is the interview with each semi-finalist. So if you haven't seen the videos of the finalists, we will play the video of maximum 7 minutes. And after there will be each judge will ask one question to each participant. So it'll be 3 questions per participant. And each participant has 2 minutes max to answer the question. After which we'll have discussion, deliberation between the 3 judges, private deliberation, and they will come back to the main room and announce the top 2 winners. And the whole session should last no more than 1.5 hours. We started the competition with 44 participants, 44 submissions, with a lot of fresh ideas from all over the world. That was a very good representation from the 6 continents, from 18 actuarial associations. So that was extremely interesting to see the topics, and all the videos are still on YouTube. You can watch them on the IAA YouTube channel. That was the start. The next phase, we kind of qualified 22 participants from 6 continental zones for the what we call the quarterfinals. And the next step, we had finally the 8 semi-finalists, and you can see all of them here. So 8 semi-finalists spread into 2 groups of 4. So last week we had the first semi-final where we saw Jose Miguel and Cici qualifying for the final, and today we have the second semi-final. If we move to the next chart, you can see the chart that shows the 2 semi-finals, and what's quite important and what's very important for today is that the 2 winners of the 4 participants will win like quite a big prize actually, because they will be able to attend the International Congress of Actuaries in Sydney end of May this year for free. They will have the flights paid and also the accommodation. So thanks to our sponsors, of course, the IAA is paying part of it, but also ActuView. So that's quite important, because it will they will have the opportunity to mingle with the participants and learn a lot and interact and bring their fresh views, but also it will be an opportunity to designate the winner, the ultimate winner of this World Cup, who will be the first ever Young Actuaries World Champion, as we call it. So that's an exciting time. Looking forward to it. Now, if we move to the next slide here, so introduction of the hosts and the judges. So today we have 3 very good judges. Very happy to have Marika Goralnik from the Estonian Association, so Eesti Aktuaride Liit. I'm not sure how I pronounce Marika, sorry for that, but I have tried. Much easier, we have Roseanne Harris, from the Actuarial Society of South Africa and immediate past president of the IAA. And we have Jose Maria Agorcia from, I try again, the Asociación Centroamericana de Actuarios from Panama. We have our 4 semi-finalists, so very excited to introduce them. So we have Penelope Drastic, who resides in the UK, and she represents today the Actuaries Institute of Australia. We have Devin McNichol, living in the US, in Asheville, and who represents the Casualty Actuarial Society. We have Mika from Singapore, representing the Singapore Actuarial Society. And we have Thomas Herbin from Montreuil, and he is representing the Institut des Actuaires in France. So well done, guys. You have made it to the semi-finals, so in the top 8 of the competition. And today we'll hear you one after the other. And the sequence that you see on the screen will be the sequence for the session, which was randomly drawn a few weeks ago. All right, so without further ado, we start with Penelope, who will show us rethinking ESG, addressing tomorrow's risks today. So, Cara, if you can play the video, thank you very much.
They haven't yet fully considered their company's ESG commitments and disclosures. Research by law firm DWF shows that 65% of insurers surveyed believe that poor ESG performance has had a substantial negative impact on their company, and 55% have experienced increased stakeholder pressure on ESG matters. The insurance industry has fallen behind other sectors, and the combination of weak ESG scores and failure to meet stakeholder expectations means that a crisis is looming. A key building block in our Bridge to Tomorrow will be demonstrating that actuaries are searching for a proactive and innovative solution. ESG factors describe the ways a company interacts with the environment, people, and the regulatory structures under which it operates. But in today's rapidly evolving corporate world, that won't be enough. My proposed Bridge to Tomorrow is the addition of a new category to the ESG framework, which represents one of the biggest shifts in modern business: the way we interact with data. The current ESG framework addresses data security and privacy through the governance category by asking whether the company complies with GDPR and similar regulation. But as businesses become increasingly data-driven, we will need to start asking about and reporting on questions of data ethics in machine learning, data quality, which underpins all the analysis and modeling that we do, and whether businesses are communicating data-driven decisions to stakeholders in accessible and transparent ways. While improving our reporting on existing ESG factors is a vital part of the solution to the ESG crisis in insurance, expanding our coverage to include data-related factors will show stakeholders that the actuarial profession is committed to maintaining a relevant and forward-looking framework for assessing ESG risks and impacts. So, what would data reporting actually cover? I've got 4 main topics to start us off: data quality, data transparency or accessibility, data interpretability, and data ethics or fairness. The 2 main concerns for companies here would be defining reporting metrics that allow meaningful comparisons between companies, and defining metrics that enable reporting to be useful without divulging commercially sensitive information. Let's start with data quality. This covers basics such as the prevalence of missing values or inconsistencies in datasets, but can be expanded to include questions like, what proportion of a company's datasets have accurate, well-maintained data dictionaries or documentation? Is the company using data which is relevant and up-to-date? Is there an established methodology for data collection, entry, and validation? A study by Munich Re found that 56% of potential life or health insurance customers felt unable to accurately answer complex medical questions, indicating huge potential for errors in that data. Can insurers identify ways that they respond to this uncertainty in their use of data? Now onto the topic of interpretability. With the rise of machine learning in insurance and finance, the use of increasingly complex models, and so-called black boxes, has posed the question of how models obtain the output that they give. As an example, in the past, underwriting rules looked something like this. Today, insurers are exploring the use of machine learning models for underwriting. Decision trees and related models such as random forests look very similar to manual underwriting in their simplest forms. But as the models become more complex, it's difficult to visualize and explain them. If it's not possible to explain exactly how a model has arrived at its conclusion, then it's hard to decide if the method that it used was actually fair. For example, since the introduction of gender-neutral pricing regulation, insurers have been unable to use gender as an input into pricing models. However, a black box machine learning model may use a combination of other variables as a proxy for gender, defying the spirit of the legislation without anyone knowing that it has occurred. Interpretability problems can also occur when a model gives output which defies common sense and internal consistency. For example, if a customer is quoted a lower premium for a policy with a 15-year term than a 10-year term. Reporting on fairness and interpretability could include answering questions about the sense checks a company has in place for the output of its models, whether the company has made efforts to identify societal biases in training data and potentially unfair features in its pricing models, and whether the company can provide adequate explanation of the pricing decisions that it would make on a given sample of people. The Python package FairLearn is an example of an attempt to quantify fairness in machine learning. Given a model and a list of groups of people, such as women, ethnic minorities, or groupings based on income, it can calculate metrics to assess fairness-related harms, such as the model's accuracy for each group. A model may be considered unfair if some of the groups score significantly worse than others, especially if those groups are already underprivileged in society. This type of analysis could be included in the ESG report. Interpretability is also closely connected to transparency. If a suitable explanation for a model's output is found, is that communicated to customers? A recent study by the Association of British Insurers explored customer perceptions of insurance pricing and how data is used to calculate premiums. The results indicated that an alarming 70% of customers believed their gender was used in pricing, a practice now forbidden by EU regulation, and that none of the study participants were aware of the existence of cross-subsidy in the insurance sector, indicating fundamental gaps in consumers' understanding of insurance pricing. While sharing a detailed breakdown of their quoted premium with a customer would help resolve this confusion, companies would be unlikely to adopt such a solution for fear of giving away too much information to competitors. So it's not likely to occur without regulatory pressures. Insurers could instead consider sharing a list of the most important variables used in pricing, or simply a few of the variables with the highest impact on premium. For now, reporting here may be a yes-no question on whether the company is doing anything to make pricing more transparent to stakeholders, or a metric representing results of a survey investigating stakeholders' understanding of the pricing process. Hopefully tomorrow's insurers will prioritize data transparency solutions and be able to make more detailed contributions to this aspect of reporting. It's clear that tomorrow's actuaries will need to commit to a stronger focus on ESG. Today's actuaries can start building the bridge to tomorrow by rethinking the ESG framework to reflect the emerging risks that a company's use of data poses for stakeholders, pushing for the development of benchmarks and standards for reporting on data, and starting a conversation about data as part of ESG reporting in their own workplaces. So let's get that conversation going right now. Comment below. At present, is ESG a regular discussion topic for your team? And in the future, what data-related reporting would you be most interested in seeing?
Thanks a lot, Penelope. Very interesting video, I must say. A lot of efforts put in it, obviously. So now we'll proceed to the judges' questions, and we'll start with the sequence that was shown earlier. So we'll start with a question from Marika.
Hello. I really enjoyed your video and approach, touching topics that are not really considered, especially the data ethics and communication towards clients and publicity. So I just wanted to ask which of those directions or problems you mentioned in your video are most exciting for you. So you as an actuary, where you would like to go deeper to deal with ethics or interpretation topics are fascinating, or communication. So where you see you as an actuary can contribute more.
So in my opinion, I think transparency and communication should be the area where we start our focus on data reporting and data ethics. So part of the reason for that is that I believe we have a duty of care towards our customers, and often the type of information that customers receive when they're purchasing an insurance policy or receiving a quote it's not enough for them to make a truly educated decision, especially if they have a relatively low degree of financial literacy. So for example, when a consumer receives their electricity bill, it's broken down very clearly for them where all of the charges are coming from, whether it's a standing charge or whether it's a daytime charge or a nighttime charge or one of many other rates or discounts that could be provided to them. So they understand where the price is coming from, and they also understand how they can modify their behavior in order to receive a better price in future months. But when you quote for an insurance policy, it can be very difficult to tell which of the pieces of information that you've given the insurer has actually contributed to the price you've received. So I think that we have a duty of care towards customers to give them the type of information that they can use and provide information accessible on their level when we're giving them a quote or a price. Now, the other reason I think transparency is important is that in the UK, we have something called CSR, or corporate social responsibility, which involves a company participating in volunteering or other kinds of community-driven activities outside of the workplace. So there's clearly an appetite for engaging in initiatives which bring value to the community beyond just the type of work that the company is designed to do or designed to create value. And instead of doing something like volunteering, say, in picking up litter or in some kind of a soup kitchen or something like that, which does still add a whole lot of value, I believe we can do that more effectively by using the skills in which we're trained, the skills in which we're hired to perform professionally, by thinking about the ways we can communicate more effectively with customers and with the wider community, and thereby improving the reputation of insurers within the community at large. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Right on time. So yeah, thanks Marika for the question, and Penelope for this answer. Now we move to the next judge. Please, Roseanne, you can ask your question.
Thanks very much, and well done, Penelope. I really liked your references to data ethics and also to this duty of care towards the customers. I was interested in and also the conversations that we need to have around how to use data responsibly. So all very valuable concepts. I'm thinking though from a risk perspective. So how do we? You talked about the potential for bias in the training data, and so how would you suggest that that we manage the risk of there being bias in training data, and also the risk that transparency leads to sort of arbitrage or moral hazard? How would you suggest that those risks can be managed?
Right, so one thing that we've done within my workplace to encourage those kinds of conversations and also approach the risk and governance perspective within our pricing strategy is to use a data ethics committee as part of any kind of price changes or data strategy changes that we make. So one part of an effective conversation about mitigating risk and about issues you mentioned, such as bias in training data, is getting as many people on board and as many diverse opinions on board as possible. So explaining the idea behind a price change and the information that was used to decide on that strategy to a broad group of people within the business means that many people can bring their opinions to bear on the issue and will be able to potentially identify issues that a pricing team or a data scientist working on their own might not be able to. So actuaries participating in a cross-disciplinary approach will mean that many other teams within the company are able to bring their experience and knowledge to bear on the issue. So in terms of looking for bias or looking for issues in training data, that's something that data scientists and actuaries can contribute to a lot in their initial approach to price change or in their initial approach to building a model. So I mentioned FairLearn as one of the packages that can be used to identify societal biases or other issues with training data that might not be picked up in the results of the model. And I think that part of a new pricing strategy or a new approach to pricing could be to involve that as one of the steps, not only identifying what are the impacts of this price change on, say, demand or on the net income per policy, but also identifying before and after the price change, what's happened in terms of marginalized groups within society, and do we risk disadvantaging some groups within society by implementing this price change, and then communicating those results to a wider group of stakeholders within the company. Thank you.
Thank you, very good. So now let's move to the third question from Jose Maria.
Yes, hello, thank you, Penelope. Very interesting, interesting presentation. And I think it's an interesting perspective on the concept of transparency and what it means for insurers to behave or operate with a certain degree of transparency. Similar to Rosanne's comments, I'm thinking a little bit about some risks, perhaps operational risks of implementing this kind of idea. And you mentioned it in your video. There may be a slight risk of revealing some sensitive information, perhaps to competitors or to the market. So my question is, what would your opinion be of perhaps making these kinds of disclosures, specifically about data and modeling, limiting these disclosures to reports to regulators and perhaps not to customers, but somehow slightly on a more internal or confidential basis? What would your opinion be about that? And what kind of trade-offs do you think would have to be made if the disclosures were made in this way and not directly openly to customers?
I think that's a fantastic idea. I'd like to build on that a little bit by suggesting that not only should disclosures be made to regulators, but perhaps a reduced disclosure or reduced amount of information should be shared with customers and with stakeholders as a whole. So you're quite right in saying that if we require companies to disclose too much information, then that runs the risk of sharing something which is commercially sensitive and which may discourage companies from participating in such a scheme. However, if this information is kept confidential and only shared with regulators, then that would greatly reduce the risk. And I'd see companies being much more willing to engage in this kind of a project, which would have a really positive outcome for not only customers, but the insurance industry as a whole. So I think a highly detailed level of disclosure should be shared with regulators, which allows them to identify potential issues such as gender or adjacent variable being used in pricing. But also it's important to think about the social impact of the work that we're doing and to ensure that insurance is not something that requires insider knowledge or specialist knowledge. It's something that customers can engage with on a level which is accessible to them. So I think that the information that should be shared with customers could perhaps be something very broad, such as when you give a quote, identifying one factor which has the biggest impact on premium. But then the type of information that would be shared with a regulator would include, say, all of the factors used within a pricing model, or perhaps a list of feature importances of the factors used within a pricing model, which would be very detailed and will enable the regulators to make decisions about whether pricing is fair and ethical, but would prevent companies, say, using robots to scrape the information provided to customers and thus divulging commercially sensitive information to other companies. So I think you have a great idea, and we should definitely implement different levels of disclosures to different groups of stakeholders within society. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks a lot. Time to move to the next participant, Devin. So, Kara, if you could play Devin's video.
Hi, my name's Devin McNichol. I'm a proud associate of the Casualty Actuarial Society. As someone who spent much of my actuarial career focused on homeowners and commercial property insurance, I've had some time to think about cats. No, not that kind of cats. I mean catastrophes. That kind. While it's my job to think about catastrophes from an insurance standpoint, it's impossible not to also think of them from the standpoint of a concerned global citizen. Many of us are wondering what climate change means for the future of our health, homes, families, communities, wealth, and well-being. Ever increasingly, we hear climate change being discussed, politicized, and argued over. But here are some of the things we know. So basically, it's not looking good. Which brings me to my product idea. Depression insurance. Just kidding. But seriously, actuaries are supposed to be math wizards, future predictors, risk mitigators, right? We trained for this, we studied, we cried. At least I did. So what are we doing about it? The traditional way that most U.S. home insurers mitigate climate change risk includes raising rates, underwriting out large sections of the population, charging more for financial-based factors like credit, or excluding certain types of losses altogether. The truth is, the homeowners insurance industry is ill-prepared to handle the devastating effects that climate change is expected to have on our communities. Unfortunately, we know these negative impacts will disproportionately affect the poorest and most vulnerable populations. At some point, the financial risk will outweigh the reward for insurers, and their products will either become too exclusive or unaffordable. Sometimes as an actuary, it's easy to forget that the overall purpose of insurance is to reduce the financial uncertainty associated with unexpected loss. Insurance's function is at its core community focused. In fact, modern property insurance can be traced to the Great Fire in London in 1666. That event, in the words of mathematician Sir Christopher Wren, changed insurance from a matter of convenience into one of urgency. I would argue that today we are standing at a similar precipice where the need for insurance will be fundamental and urgent for those facing catastrophic events. I believe that as actuaries, it's our prerogative to push further, to do more, to be an active, deliberate, logical, and data-driven voice in the conversation surrounding climate change. So, what can we do? Well, according to the 2017 CDP Carbon Majors Report, since 1988, 100 companies have been responsible for 71% of the entire world's industrial greenhouse gas emissions. It only seems logical that we might enlist some of these companies to help alleviate the burden. If we could harness more corporate resources and direct them towards the problem at hand, we'd be in a better position to help the vulnerable populations impacted by climate change. While there are some options like carbon taxes that force corporations to contribute to the solution, these are contentious and most do nothing to address property loss for populations that are already experiencing stronger catastrophic events. However, I believe with the right product, we can incentivize corporations to voluntarily create win-win situations between company and community. This leads me to my actual product idea. Corporate-funded catastrophe mitigation and reparations insurance. Okay, I'll workshop the name. But the premise is to create an insurance product funded by corporations that indemnifies communities and individuals that may be under or even uninsured in the event of a catastrophe. Many companies across all industries, from oil to tech, are voluntarily looking for ways to reduce their carbon footprints and move towards a more climate-friendly business model. They are seeking options and products that will help with their public relations, appease increasingly climate-focused investors, and ease their environmental consciences. In fact, the Climate Policy Initiative estimates that companies spent $124 billion on climate investment in 2020 alone. This corporate-funded pooled insurance product would be used as a pathway for companies to alleviate the financial burden of climate change on low-income, underdeveloped communities. Here are some questions you might have about a product like this.
Shouldn't we be more focused on initiatives like carbon removal and emissions reduction?
Generally, the forward-thinking goal of climate action is to reduce emissions. However, we also need to direct some focus on the harm already done. An insurance product of this nature would help alleviate some of the immediate concerns of the communities who need it. In addition, adding clauses into the product that incentivize relocation of at-risk properties and/or rebuilding in ways that mitigate the risk to certain types of weather-related loss can move communities towards a more sustainable equilibrium and reduce the risk of future repeated loss.
How could a product like this be marketed and sold?
Well, companies already exist whose sole purpose is helping large corporations create and execute climate action plans. Partnering with these types of initiatives could add a tool in the toolbox for those that are already addressing the needs of the climate change issue.
Why not invest the money directly instead of paying the fees associated with an insurance product?
In the event of a loss, insurance companies already have the systems in place to identify risk, assess damage, and indemnify policyholders. These existing systems can be used to streamline the process and ensure more efficiency and less fraud than a traditional emergency fund. As much as I'd like to answer all the questions, I'm unfortunately out of time. But I'd like to highlight that this is just one product idea aimed at reducing the impacts of the climate crisis. This is a problem that requires many solutions. It requires teamwork and collaboration. I know actuaries can play a role in the solution if we work together and continue to diversify products and ideas. We have the opportunity and the skills to help our planet, our communities, as well as propel our profession to new heights if we choose to do so. So to all you actuaries out there contributing toward the journey across the bridge to tomorrow, thank you, and I look forward to working with you.
Thanks a lot, Devin. Very good video, and it's quite a heavy topic, and it's good that you had a bit of humor in this. I must say I've watched all the 44 videos from all participants, and I think if there was a prize of humor, you would be probably not on the podium at least, yes. So anyway, the contents are clearly very relevant and interesting to today's world. So let's proceed to the question time. So let's start with, let's change a bit the sequence. Let's start with Roseanne this time. If you can ask your question to Devin, please.
Yeah, thanks, Fred, and well done, Devin. Great video. Enjoyed the approach, and I hope you're giving some credit to your friends who helped you with the questions too. So I think it's a great idea, and certainly consistent with us moving into adaptation as the theme for managing climate risk. I'm interested in the comparison between your approach. I won't try and say the name that you still need to workshop, and the emergency fund, and you address it to some extent in your video. But how would you address concerns around capping the exposure of the corporates? Because obviously the need here is great. And the corporates may be concerned about having an open-ended liability, whereas if they were sort of donating into an emergency fund, they could cap their exposure. How would you suggest you can kind of manage that that exposure for the corporates participating?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and something that I think would take a lot of care. And I mean, obviously, in order to get corporations to sign on to a product like this, they're going to have to understand their exposure and understand in the worst case scenario what that limit might be. I envision this product to be more like a parametric product where there is a set amount of money that's triggered by a certain event. I also envision the product to be used as basically an addition to things like emergency funds. So for example, the National Flood Insurance Program in the US, I wouldn't expect a product like this to pull as much money as something like that government funded project does. So for me, I think you pick a certain exposure place as far as location. So maybe it's a city, or even maybe an even smaller version of that is a zip or a zip code or something similar. And you have a capped limit, and then you, just like with other government programs, you sort of assess by need until you hit the limit. And so maybe you say, okay, this part of the fund is funded by X corporation up to 5 million in loss, and this part of the fund is funded up to 10. And so each corporation that's contributing to that fund has a certain triggered loss whenever that event happens, such that they know exactly their exposure at the onset of the policy.
Thanks, Devin, and thanks, Roseanne, for your question. Let's move to Jose Maria for your question.
Yes, thanks, Fred. And thank you, Devin. Very interesting presentation and video. I like your call to action and the parallels you made with the London fire of the 17th century, where this was considered a matter of urgency. I think there is something to that parallel you make. I think that there's definitely a call to action in how we can pool or diversify or make attempts to diversify our exposure to the risks that the climate change is provoking. My question was actually very similar to the previous one. So you pretty much answered it. I thought the product idea is moving in a complicated gray area between public goods dealing with externalities and commercial insurance. So I thought that would provide some challenges with the commercial viability of the product, you know, because it risks becoming somewhat of a public fund, something something like a tax as well. But you mentioned that you're interested in creating a product where the incentive already exists for corporates to contribute voluntarily to this kind of a situation. How far along have you thought about the contractual design of this product? You mentioned that you envision it somewhat of as a parametric product. So what other contractual design features of this product have you thought of? And do you think that this product could be made commercially viable without depending on some sort of a reputational benefit of the funders, of the corporates, and instead there being some sort of a commercial viability behind it? It's a complicated thing to achieve, but there may be some risks on depending on the corporate's goodwill for having this scheme be successful.
Yeah, Jose, I absolutely agree. And I think, you know, when I started thinking about this product, I was really thinking about, you know, initially I was thinking about things like carbon taxes, you know, like basically mandatory government programs that would, you know, that would be funded by corporations. And some of those, obviously, worldwide, some of those types of ideas are taking off. But what I'd like to also, you know, I think that's one answer to in my video, I mentioned, I think there's many solutions to this problem and that we're going to require many solutions to this problem. And for me, my product really does focus on the goodwill of the company. And I do think for this type of product to work, for it to be a voluntary funded, you know, it's more like a donation in some ways than say a traditional insurance product. Right. So I think you do absolutely have to have that incentive where the company can add it as part of its initiative to you know, net zero or their green initiatives. And part of the reason why I like a approach like this is because it does give it, you know, the corporation does get something in return, but also it can be more immediate than something like a tax or a carbon tax. We know that those things get held up in red tape. There's, you know, there's lawsuits and litigation and all kinds of stuff that goes into those types of taxes. So I think you can get a product like this to market faster. And that is a segment that is missing in the current conversation around, you know, going green, is what can we do right now for people? And I think this is one solution that could be helpful in that space.
Yes, great, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Let's move to the last judge, Marika, for your question, please.
Thank you, Devin, for the entertaining way of approaching the serious topic. I enjoyed your video very much. And I would like to use the opportunity to hear more, as you promised at the end of your video, and go deeper maybe to the role of actuary in designing of this product, how you see it and how to make it a bit closer to insurance than to the pay-as-you-go scheme. So I would be happy if you can elaborate.
Yeah. To the first part of your question, you know, I like, as an actuary, you know, I think we stand on such an interesting intersection. You know, we deal with finance, obviously insurance, math and statistics, data science, climate science. You know, we really are a profession that sits at the most, I think, logical position to be helpful in this problem that surrounds, you know, climate science, and climate change. And so as actuaries, I do think that because, you know, we sit in that position, we do need to hold ourselves to high standards. And, you know, I think we should be coming up with smart and innovative ideas, and not just because we can, but I think because we should. So to the second part of your question, you know, I think I don't envision it as a pay-as-you-go scheme. I do envision it as a product, like where the premium is invested. So I think it would be a monthly or yearly payment scheme where the money can, you know, be invested and then paid out in a traditional way that property insurance is that, you know, how it generally works. And then if the funds, the benefit of that is that you could exceed the limit once, you know, if you go a certain amount of time without an event, because you're able to invest those funds and you're able to, you know, realize the gains from that. So I do see it from a payment and a contractual sort of standpoint, looking to the company like a traditional insurance product. It's just that the beneficiary of that product in the event of a loss is not going to be the policy holder necessarily. It's going to be, you know, the constituents in which they're indemnifying through their policy, which would be, you know, hopefully under or even uninsured individuals. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
If I have an opportunity to specify, Fred, or the time is off because I didn't run the.
Well, Carla, there was a slight issue, but Carla wrote in the chat that it was 1 minute 30. So if you can, like, a very short elaboration, and maybe we leave 30 seconds to Devin.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned the premium. So how you would set the premium as an actuary for how you will cooperate with those institutions willing to pay for that?
Sure. Yeah, I would use, you know, in the US we have the AIR and RMS models that try to come up with long-term costs or average annual losses for various types of catastrophe. That's fire, hurricane, you know, severe convective storm, and I would use those as the main pricing initiative to be able to say, okay, if you want to cover this amount, this many homes, you know, on some average, we're going to use that average annual loss projected over time, and then, you know, just use traditional rate making. Use the tools in our tool belt really is how I would describe pricing this product.
Thank you.
Okay,
hopefully I didn't go over. Sorry.
Very much. That's I think. Yeah, the timer has some issues, so sorry about that, but that's fine. So Devin, you have gone through the 3 questions, so that's good. You can rest, and we can move to the next participant, Mika from Singapore, about Industrial Revolution 5.0 positioning of actuaries in driving
climate change is an existential threat to humanity. There are many global collective efforts to address the impact of climate change. Climate change is an existential threat to humanity. There are many global collective efforts to address the impact of climate change, such as the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDG. Country authorities are implementing TCFD standards to address climate change issues. From actuarial science perspective, how does TCFD work and how can we contribute? This is the TCFD approach. It focuses on the financial sustainability of corporates. It introduces a concept called transition risk, which quantifies the impact of climate change. In essence, it is about earnings volatility and solvency. This is an illustration of transition risk. Due to globalization, corporates have profit and cost mismatch across countries. The impact of such events exposes a corporate to solvency risk. From actuarial science perspective, all this refers to the loss distribution. Loss distribution helps us to estimate capital adequacy at a certain confidence interval. Many banks adopted 99.96% confidence interval. The remaining expected shortfall is a risk of insolvency that we need to accept, commonly known as a tail probability. The first component of capital adequacy is expected loss, which is included in business budgeting and is reflected in risk-based pricing in products. An example in Basel II and Basel III for credit portfolio is that EL equals to PD times LGD times EAD. In general, it relates to the earnings volatility of a company. Solvency is addressed by budgeting for economic capital, which measures unconditional unexpected loss. One approach is stress testing, which focuses on conditional expected loss in reference to scenarios selected through scenario analysis. This is well documented by UK banking regulators in a Climate Financial Risk Forum. This is an example of stress testing on earnings volatility. This is the earnings distribution without stress and under stress. The skewness and kurtosis under stress changes the characteristics of earnings volatility. Take Singapore as an example for TCFD implementation. Singapore Central Bank MAS has embedded TCFD in its environmental risk management. Singapore Stock Exchange has embedded TCFD in Rule 711A and B. Together, they implement the capital allocation framework towards sustainable economic activities. Through listing rules, SGX governs all listed companies that require capital. Through capital market license, MES governs the 3 capital market players. Asset managers inject capital, and banks provide liquidity funding for companies. Insurers provide options for risk transfer. Regulations mandate environmental risk assessment and disclosure for all capital market activities. This shapes corporate behavior towards sustainable economic activities. Capital investment and liquidity funding is where a sustainable future is created and funded. For example, in 2021, MES deployed $1.8 billion of official foreign reserves for climate-related investments through 5 designated asset managers, such as BlackRock, Schroders, and BNP Paribas. Looking at the landscape of the actuary profession, according to IAA, there are about 40,000 actuary fellows worldwide. According to US government statistics, more than 75% of actuaries are working in the insurance industry. And according to SOA, less than 5% of actuaries are working in investment and banking. Let's look at our peers, CFA and FRM. There are about 160,000 charters from CFA and 77,000 certified FRM. Both of them are working directly in the areas of asset management and banking. From sustainability perspective, actuaries should consider repositioning themselves to stay relevant to the world's agenda. There are 3 main areas in prediction analytics, namely prediction methodology, software and tools, and data. Advancements in technologies such as AI in Industrial Revolution 4.0 will obsolete and replace some skill sets, and there will be demand for new skill sets. Actuaries need to embrace these changes and upgrade and reposition themselves to stay relevant in Industrial Revolution 5.0. There are 2 main prediction methodologies. In analytical prediction modeling approach, we have preconceived logic for the prediction, and we try to simplify the world to fit into the limitations of the model. Take time series prediction as an example. It evolves from autoregression as a base model to ARMA, ARIMA, SARIMA, and SARIMAX, which are all based on the same idea that the past values of a time series can alone be used to predict future values. In deep learning models, it is a different approach. It is a generic learning algorithm that does not require prior knowledge. It learns and builds a model based on the given data. This is the design of a neural network. This is a deep learning model I made using Python and TensorFlow some time back. There are 122,000 hyperparameters to build a predictive model for very complex nonlinear systems. In terms of software and tools, the common ones are R in RStudio and Python in Anaconda and Jupyter Notebook. With technological advancements, making predictions will not require coding. These are some examples of no-code prediction. We give AI instructions in human language and AI makes predictions. In this Mona Lisa example, AI makes predictions through extrapolation. In this end-of-the-world example, AI makes predictions on non-existent scenarios. And in this cat and dog example, AI makes predictions using transfer learning. In Industrial Revolution 5.0, prediction capabilities will be irreversibly replaced by AI. The basic assumption in prediction models is that history tends to repeat itself in the near future. In building prediction models, we train the model using historical data, we validate the model using out-of-sample data, and we backtest the model regularly. But what if we want to predict events with no historical data? In Industrial Revolution 4.0, generative AI is the solution. Generative Adversarial Network, or GAN, is able to generate random human faces. These people look real, but they do not exist. GAN can be applied for climate change scenario generation and analysis. In Industrial Revolution 5.0, we need to come to terms that many jobs will be irreversibly replaced by AI. As actuaries, we need to reposition ourselves in the new world to coexist with AI. AI can find solutions to complex problems. Our role is to formulate problem statements to AI in areas such as climate change and medical research. With the power of AI, we need to ensure ethical use of AI and implement it in law and regulations. AI is not a legal entity. We need to establish accountability in adopting AI recommendations. The aim is to be controllers, to understand, supervise, and challenge the basis of AI recommendations. For actuaries, we need to find our footing and space towards which we build our bridge.
Thanks a lot, Mika, for this very interesting video. I guess that AI has always been a topic for the past years, which was quite advertised, but I believe that since a few weeks ago, with the emergence of OpenAI ChatGPT, the general public has seen very concretely how it could look like, and I was myself quite impressed with that. So it's very it becomes more and more tangible for everyone, I guess. So very relevant topic. So now let's proceed to the question. So we'll start with Jose Maria this time.
Thank you, Fred, and thank you, Mika, for a very wide-ranging presentation. I think you touch on many of the current topics, the more relevant and trending topics in insurance and for actuaries. So congratulations on a very, very wide-ranging presentation. I like the forward-looking perspective that you provided, where you say the aim for actuaries in the future is to be controllers, where we want to understand and supervise and challenge the basis of AI recommendations. I think this is forward-looking and probably very accurate. My question is more of a request. Do you think you could help me perhaps in connecting the first part of your presentation, where you expand about climate change, transition risk, you mentioned the TCFD. Could you help me maybe connect the ideas from the first part, from this first part of your presentation, to the second part, where you bring topics like AI, machine learning models, and this new role for actuaries? Help me bridge these two parts of your presentation.
Okay, thank you for the question. So basically, the whole video is talking about in Industrial Revolution 5, what is the challenges and limitations we'll face as actuaries. So there's mainly two, which is the first part of the video is, firstly, it's not clear what the footing of the actuary profession is in Industrial Revolution 5. Currently, climate change is an existential threat to humanity. And as mentioned, a lot of authorities of many countries are adopting TCFD to address the sustainability issue. And explain my video, the intended outcome of the TCFD and sustainability is a capital allocation framework which shapes corporate behavior towards sustainable economic activities. And capital investment and liquidity funding from asset managers and banks are the ones creating and funding this sustainable future. So according to US government statistics, about 75% of actuaries are working in the insurance industry. And according to SOA, less than 5% of actuaries are working in investment and banking. So let's say a young actuary starts the actuary program now in 2023 and spends about 7 years to attain his fellowship. By 2030, when he completes all the professional exams, what strategic position and value add will the actuary profession have? will we still be using like insurance, for example, car insurance, to change the future and sustainability, while in the future, car insurance products may be obsoleted by centralized AI coordinated vehicles like Tesla? And the second part of the video is talking about the paradigm shift in skill sets from Industrial Revolution 4 to 5. Coding in R is a mandatory exam towards actuarial fellowship, and R is just a statistical package. Currently in IR4, people are already using tools like TensorFlow and PyTorch for AI. And in Kaggle, which is the world's largest online data science and AI community, which I've been a member of for years, you can hardly see anyone using R at all. So basically, the conclusion is that actuaries need to be relevant to the global agenda and also adjust the skill sets to be more relevant and contribute more. So only once actuaries find their footing can we change the actuarial program to be prepared for this direction. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thanks a lot, right on time, well done. So now let's move to Marika.
Mika, thank you. That was a really good overview of the broad picture. I learned a lot myself. And you marked new challenges and positioning opportunities for actuaries in your presentation, and mentioned great tools that can be used in the future. But I have like more. I would like to ask yourself, what is beyond? So what you are going to do in order to achieve the position you were mentioning and to be able to use those tools? So what will you do next?
Okay, thank you for the question. I think what we should do next is basically change our view towards what AI is, because currently I know a lot of people are afraid of AI, thinking like some Terminator thing where AI would take over our jobs, whether there'll be job loss, all those things. But I think regarding AI, I think we should be more rational towards it. Like, we didn't design how humans work and how our brains work, but we still managed to coexist and live with each other reasonably well for centuries. And the design of AI is based on our scientific understanding of how our brains work. And the basic principles of science is that it must be repeatable and replicable. So dealing with AI should be less uncertain compared to dealing with our coworkers and other people. And if we can live with other people, we can also live with AI. Also, we do actually understand how AI works. Let me give you an example. In 2016, an AI created by DeepMind called AlphaGo beat a Go champion 4-1. And in the documentary, the AI engineers could actually understand the decision-making process of AlphaGo and understand its behavior. So it shows that we actually do understand AI and it's not just a black box. So it's so easy to say that we don't understand how things work, but is this really the case? We should be more open to reach out to understand and make peace with and coexist with AI, which is just a tool to help us achieve our goals. In this case, making prediction and driving sustainability. And this is actually what Industrial Revolution 5 is all about, which is coexisting with AI. If not, we will just be isolating ourselves and with our ignorance, and this may cause discrimination. The same way racial discrimination happens in present day. So the next step is not so much about AI or technical things. It's more about our perspective towards the changes we'll see in Industrial Revolution 5. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marika. Thanks, Mika. Now, last but not least, Rosanne.
Thanks, Fred, and thanks, Mika. That was a very interesting presentation, and I guess my question actually follows on from your last response. I mean, I really like the way that you're framing it in terms of staying relevant to the world's agenda. That's really important for us as a profession. So I'm interested in your thoughts about this role that our profession can play in working with AI, as you said, as a tool. And I mean, even the challenges that we have now in terms of the tools that we're working with is that application of actuarial judgment. So even with TCFD, it's a scenario based analysis, and as you're saying, you can use these tools to now generate scenarios without the need for historical data. But how would we then apply our actuarial judgment to ensure that those are relevant scenarios. So the kind of stress testing that you're doing, which is the, the purpose of generating the scenarios, are appropriate and relevant. So how do we sort of bring together these AI tools and actuarial judgment? Keen to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you for the question. This is more of like how I see it is more of like how AI would affect the actuary profession in general. So there are two main areas where actuaries will be affected in Industrial Revolution 5. The first is that some of the existing products and services the actuaries are working on may be obsoleted in the future. So an example is car insurance. So now the world is moving towards centralized AI coordinated vehicles like we see from Tesla. And so instead of a pool of different drivers, like insurance companies will in the future be insuring against one AI. So this results in a concentration risk. And in addition to this, the AI companies may be able to manage risk better and cheaper than insurance companies. So this puts extreme stress on the pricing and profitability of insurance companies. And furthermore, AI companies may even issue their own product insurance as part of their product guarantee. So this may obsolete their car insurance product. And the second main area is that actuaries may be losing their niche in Industrial Revolution 5. And with the technological advancements in Industrial Revolution 4, the expertise of making scientific predictions will become a commodity with the introduction of, as I mentioned, no-code AI prediction tools that are now being more accessible to the public. So what we previously considered the niche of actuaries in terms of predictions may not be special in the future. So any layperson will be able to make them sound scientific predictions equally well, if not better than actuaries today. So there will be a paradigm shift in the products, services, and skill sets of the actuaries. And this is more of how AI affects the actuary profession. In conclusion, actuaries will need to find their own niche and value add to justify our professional existence and a role in Industrial Revolution 5. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mika.
Thanks a lot, Mika and Roseanne. So that's all for you, Mika. So you can take a rest now. And now we move to Thomas Herbin from the Institut des Actuaires in France, car insurance, a bridge to carbon footprint reduction.
Hello, I'm Thomas, and I'm here to talk about my project. Not that I want to spoil the mood, but I have to start with an inconvenient truth. Our planet is facing a major crisis, which I'm sure you've heard about. I'm talking here about the environmental emergency. As an actuary, I was looking to make a bridge between insurance business and reduction of carbon footprint. Thanks to research, we are able to know what are the major sources of pollution and what is the estimated carbon footprint of each sector. In France, the sector emitting the more carbon dioxide is in transport, with the most of it coming from the usage of personal car. Furthermore, 40% of the daily drives in the cities are less than 3 kilometers long. Rides that could easily be done walking or riding a bike. Now, given that car insurance is mandatory in France, how could we help people to reduce their carbon footprints? The core idea of my project is to nudge people to reduce the usage of their car and reward their efforts by offering them financial reduction. This will be implemented through a digital add-on on existing car insurance policies. How does it work? I envision this add-on product as an app downloaded by the user on their cell phone. The app is functioning through 3 steps. Step 1. Enrollment and set of the goal. Through 4 basic questions, we will be able to draw the user profile and set his personalized objective. Where do you live? Where do you walk? How many of car rides do you do per week? And how many of those car rides are work related? Based on the answer, the model will estimate the average kilometer traveled during a month. From this average, we will set a personal objective as a monthly maximum distance the user should try not to exceed. For example, Paula is currently driving 400 kilometers per month by car. Her target will set to a monthly distance of 350 kilometers. Now, what about step 2? Once the target is set, Paula will take her car as usual and hopefully try to use her legs or bike to travel short distances. We will observe Paula's usage of her car by simple picture of her car dashboard, which will give us the data of how many kilometers has been driven since last picture. Now, the best part, step 3, the reward. At the end of the month, thanks to the data of how many kilometers the car has been used for, the model will observe either the objective has been achieved or not. If the objective has been achieved, Paula is rewarded with a bonus of a certain amount, calculated by the model. At any moment, Paula will be able to effectively earn her bonus via either getting the gains through a cashback transfer, having her next insurance premiums reduced by the bonus amount, choose to buy a bike for which the insurer will subsidize the accumulated gains, or accumulate the gains to use it later. If the objective has not been achieved, this is fine. Paula will try again next month. Because every kilometer saved is a step on the fight against climate change, the add-on must be adopted by as many people as possible. In order to reach the whole population and enroll people from the urban, suburban and rural areas, the model will be adapted depending on the geographical location of the user. For example, in rural areas, the model will focus on rides that are easily doable by bike, such as daily groceries. Now, what are the benefits for insurer to use our add-on on their products? First of all, an insurer using our add-on on his product will be granted by marketing interest, having a green and innovative image, distinguish its offer from competitors, and convince new clients to underwrite their insurance contract. Retain current policyholders by offering them premium reduction. At last, the decrease of car use will reduce the claim rate of the users and increase the insurer technical profits. For policyholders, our product will offer cashback by using a very simple and fun app and enable them to take part into the fight against climate change. Before launching the project countrywide, the add-on must be used during a pilot phase on the target population to collect real data from the app. Those data will enable a better calibration of the model and help me to optimize the user's experience. So, are you ready to reduce your carbon footprint and being rewarded for it?
Thanks a lot, Thomas. Merci. Very good video. So let's proceed to the judges' questions. Let's start with Marika.
Thank you, Thomas. It was very detailed, practical, very clear, ready to go product. So just out of the curiosity, I would like to ask if you have already approached the company's product managers with your ideas, and if not yet, how you would see you could market the idea to insurance industry.
Yes, thank you for your very practical question. I have already some contacts with different people related to insurance industry. I already pitched the idea, for example, with people who are involved in innovative products. The objective of those first pitch was focused on the relevancy of the project and around the data we will need to calibrate and to make the add-on relevant on both the target setting and the reward for the users. In the same time, I had touch with some team in non-insurance company regarding those kind of innovation in insurance. But of course, I think that the best aim for my add-on right now is try to find a sponsor and as much as possible as an insurer sponsored, because it will be the best way to have access to first beta tester through his portfolio of contract. And how I envision to do this is to communicate a lot about my project, and that context is very good for me because I'm able to communicate around it in my personal network, for example. And I think that if I can convince them to help me on the first phase of the project, I can access to their portfolio, and I can have the first step of the project for real.
Thank you.
Thanks, thanks, Marika. So let's move to the second question from Rosa.
Thank you, and thanks, Tomas. It's a very tangible proposal that you're making, and I'm aware of a number of insurers that operate on the basis of using telematics as a way to rate car insurance. So they'll be measuring the kilometers. So I think the dimension that you're bringing here is to add a target to that. So have you thought through the basis on which you would do that? If you're already rating based on kilometers driven, but what you want to do is add a top-up incentive here to change behaviors and reduce. And obviously, if you're using telematics, the premium would automatically reduce, but you still want to create, as you said, that that nudge. So I'm just interested in sort of the modeling around that, and whether you've thought about other means of incentivizing people to reduce their carbon footprint.
So if I understand right, the question is about the relevant incentive for the user.
Yes, and given that if you're using telematics to rate the insurance, you already be giving a reduction based on the kilometers driven, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, yes. And regarding the telematics, our objective is to have our own data on the car used by the user, by picture of the car dashboard, which will give us on a certain frequency, for example, every 2 weeks, the number of kilometers drove. The thing is, the add-on will be synced as a product that could be spread on different type of portfolio, and then I have to sync, and I had this idea to be adapted to every kind of portfolio, and a large kind of data from different insurer, because I think all insurers have different database, have different data collection. So my app has this objective to be easy to adapt to every kind of contract. And regarding the incentive, the important part is that I want to have some beta tester in the first phase of the project, and with those first phase, be able to observe their behavior and observe what kind of incentive are enough to motivate them to stay in the app week after week.
Okay, thanks a lot, Thomas. Let's move to the last question from Jose Maria.
Yes, thank you, Thomas. Congratulations on a very interesting and nice idea. I like that your idea, as our colleagues have said, it is very practical. I think it tries to find a way to design a product within a perhaps commercially viable business case. And I'm also a fan of any project that tries to get more people to ride bicycles, as long as they wear helmets. Don't forget to wear your helmets. anyways, my question is similar to the previous one. I was wondering how far along you are, or what ideas you have related to the way that the benefit will be valued, or let's say modeled or calculated. I imagine there's some sort of an interaction with pricing, no? There's some sort of decrease in the frequency, and then you make some sort of a choice about how to distribute that pure premium reduction. But how far along have you thought about this and maybe modeled with simulated data or real data?
Yes, exactly. The fact is, the objective of the add-on is to motivate people through the reward, and thus to fund this reward in the insurer point of view. And as you say, the claim reduction is the first way to fund this reward, is the first financial motivation for the insurer.
Yes.
To price the reward, we need to be able to price the claim reduction. I had some studies on portfolio. Of course, we do not use the add-on, and the frequency of their claim rate, and then some estimation on how many cents you can save as an insurer point of view on the claims by kilometer that people won't realize. So that's a first part of, for me, the pricing is about this claim reduction.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to convince the insurer that the reward must not be funded by the claim reduction. The insurer ideally must go further, because it will be for him a very good advantage to his competitors if we can propose, if you can offer our add-on on its product, because it will be a marketing advantage to retain and to make its policyholder more loyal to their current contract, and convince new people to enter in their portfolio.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jose Maria and Thomas. So that's the last question. That was the last question for the last participants. So summary of the day is really that we have touched on a lot of topics for the future. I wrote down the list: ESG, climate risks, SDG, actuaries in other areas than insurance, AI, programming skills, new insurance product, telematics, or kind of, and customer engagement. I think the list is quite impressive. It's a very comprehensive list of future topics just in 90 minutes. So that's really what the IAA tries to do as well, in terms of finding how actuaries can be relevant in the future. And that's really the heart of it. So I just wanted to thank the four of you for these topics, for your videos. And it's quite obvious you have spent a lot of time on your topics to think through it and to make the video. So thanks a lot for it. So now this leads to my next statement that Roseanne, Marika, and Jose Maria, I do not envy you, because you have like a very difficult task now to find the two winners out of those four participants. So I will leave you go to the link that Cara has sent you, and come back whenever you have the winners. So whenever you have the white smoke, you can come back. So in the meantime, Marika has left. Yeah, okay, good. So yes, I think it's no later than earlier in the day, we had in the IA a strategic planning committee meeting, and we are thinking of the future topics. And one of the, Pedro, who is one of the members of the strategic planning committee meeting, referred to the Young Actuaries World Cup because, you know, we are looking for volunteers to think through the future topics, and climate risks is definitely one of them, and water utilization as well is probably something that we will work on to see how actuaries can contribute to the future. And I believe that one thing that we can do is to engage the 44 participants of the Young Actuaries World Cup. Of course, if you guys have spare time in the future, because you know we really want you are the future of the profession, and we want you to have your say on the future topics, and all your topics are definitely very relevant for this. So yeah, so Carla told me it's my first time posting that, but it's more like a chit chat. So maybe I can have your views on your experience, maybe from this World Cup. Do you think it's is it the first time you do such competition, or what do you think? And also, what can we do more or less in the future? What do you guys think of this? Because this is very experimental. It's the first time, and we hope to perhaps have it every 3 years, because the International Congress of Actuaries is every 3 years. So what do you guys think?
So I'm really glad I participated. I'd like to thank all the judges and organisers, because I think it's been an amazing experience and something that's really benefited me, getting to talk to people who are more senior in the profession, getting to know people outside of my own circles. It's been a great experience for me. So yeah, I definitely think that another one should be held in the future to give more young people the opportunity.
Yeah, I'll second that. I really have enjoyed the process. I had never competed in anything actuarial, so it's kind of funny, but it's so nice to, at least my actuarial world is pretty small, you know, as far as how many young actuaries I get to be around and meet and talk to. Also from other types of, you know, insurance. So hearing people outside of the property casualty world and hearing their ideas and their opinions, it's really motivating and interesting. And you know, I thought all of the other videos were so good. So it's just really awesome to be a part of it, and absolutely, I think now I will have to volunteer. So.
Yeah. I mean, just to be clear, it's not an obligation, but you know, if you wish to know more, especially what you say, Devin, to interact more with different horizons in terms of geography, in terms of practice area, and in terms of seniority as well, to learn from us. But also, it's to bring your views, because you guys have really the good ideas. So definitely, you have a say. That's really what I personally believe, and a lot of people in the IA believe that. Yeah, you guys have good ideas. Yeah, so.
Thanks, and I was only kidding about having to volunteer. I'll have to because I want to.
Yeah. And you know, by the way, Mika, you mentioned actuaries in banking. I was thinking that, you know, in so you found less than 5% according from the Society of Actuaries. You know, funny enough, there are some countries, notably South Africa, which is quite known to have like a large percentage of their members to work in banking. So Roseanne is from South Africa. I was thinking, maybe she can mention this, but yeah, it depends on the countries actually. So SOA is mainly American, but you know, it's quite international. But yeah, so some countries have it happens that the banks in South Africa hire more actuaries, but it's true that the actuaries traditionally have been in the area of insurance. Could it be direct insurance or reinsurance or consultants? So, but that's true. But it can change in the future. That's for sure. And definitely, actuaries in insurance need to adapt to the new technologies. So can I ask, Thomas, I'm quite curious. So although I'm in the French Institute as well, is there any such competition in France or in Europe in general? Because the AAE is quite active. Is there such thing?
Not. I didn't know if there is one. I don't think so. I know that in France there were just months ago an initiative to have a young actuary council in our local actuarial institute. So I think what we see today with the International Actuary Association moving to the young actuaries are the same in France with our local institute. And of course, I think it's a very good initiative because I'm convinced that our world and our profession is changing fast due to technology and to environmental change, and we have to change as actuary and to adapt and to stay relevant in our day-to-day work.
So yeah, no, that's clear. And also what's important is, and maybe, you know, profiles like Mika, you know, a few people like you who are like so proficient into coding, but a bit sometimes frustrated with, you know, the actual profession in general, so many exams, etc. So they just leave, bifurcate, and go for pure data scientist role, and they know how to program, etc. So I know a few people more and more, and this is something that we need to act together, I believe, as an actuarial profession to ensure that we take the relevant steps to not become obsolete, as you said many times, Mika. So I think that's something quite important. We need to change, to transform ourselves, but to remain actuaries, because to me the main two differences between actuaries and data scientists is clearly that firstly, we're a profession. Actuaries is a profession with regulation, etc. So we have a reputation. And the second thing is that we are more specialized in insurance, I would say. So we have a say in insurance. When Elon Musk asked for insurance, you know, insurance people for Tesla, he asked for actuaries first. So that's, you know, something that it's true that we can diversify, but this is still our core. So I think that's the main difference. But Mika, tell me, you are so you look so knowledgeable in AI that I suspect that you are. Did you use ChatGPT to answer the questions of the judges? You know, maybe you typed everything, or you have like a voice recognition, and then you just read the ChatGPT answer. Tell us the truth now.
I mean, if there's such a good ChatGPT out there, then maybe. Yeah. But like, I've experimented with ChatGPT a few times because mostly out of curiosity. I think one of the first thing I typed was asking ChatGPT to program an entire like AI for me, but in the end it just helped like explain what the AI does and like basically the definition of AI. So I think ChatGPT is like, at least this level of ChatGPT is quite relatively new, because I'm not so sure if you heard of the OpenAI ChatGPT. Basically, it takes is like all the information it gets, basically is training data from the internet. And so some things like on social media, there's a bit of toxicity, a bit of like racist comments that the AI also takes in by itself. So in the end, the things that it generates may not be ethical, maybe a bit racist, a bit like not true. So I think maybe that's something they should work on, but I'm actually quite curious to see how ChatGPT evolves into. Because imagine if you could do things like write music or write like story scripts based on ChatGPT. I think it's been done before, but then not really good quality. But then again, that was years ago. So I think it'd be quite interesting.
It has improved a lot, I think. Huh? The AI has improved a lot over like quite just a few years. If it continues to improve at the same pace, I think the landing point would be quite impressive. And but yeah, as you say, we need to embrace it and see how we can use it the best. So it looks like the judges, as I expected, they have quite a long time to deliberate. Huh? You guys make them think. So I have attended the deliberation of the 6 quarterfinals and the first semifinals, so 7 times. I think only once it was like 10 minutes. Usually after 5-ish minutes, it was done deal. So it's good. It shows the quality of your presentation, honestly. So that's good, and that's something that, you know, whatever the outcome, if you are not in the top 2 participants, I mean, please, you know, don't think it's wasted time. You can, you know, you have the YouTube link, you have reached the semi-final, you have interacted with a lot of people. That's definitely valuable for you. Your ideas are very good. So just, you know, please don't be disappointed whatever the outcome is. And for the 2 winners, that will be very good to see you in Sydney now. It's coming very soon. Actually, it's in 3 months. So next week we will, by end of next week, we'll be able to tell the criteria for the win. Unfortunately, because we came a bit late in the game for the International Congress of Actuaries, so the 4 participants there will not be able to present on stage. That would have been something that would have been very good, but we'll try to do it for Tokyo 2026. Nevertheless, there will be some ways to designate a winner, and I know that Carla is working on a trophy. Carla, is the trophy finalized or not yet, by the way? I'm quite curious.
Not yet. We are getting there. It's going to be a beautiful surprise.
All right. So in fact, I would say that, I mean, just to manage expectation, the main prize is really to go to Sydney. After, of course, we'll have 1 winner, but that's mainly about the trophy and the fame, just to manage expectations. So we are judges, like it's the first time. So now we're over time. It's more than 90 minutes now. And we started on time. So
I'll see if I can go and get into the meeting. I'm going to try.
Well, don't take risk, Carla, because it might. I hope our meeting doesn't collapse. Huh?
Okay. There, I am managing risk and making you a host.
Yeah, please. So we have learned a lot during COVID about virtual meetings, obviously, but you know, we are still not on top of it yet. You see, people like Penelope don't have the right background. Thomas started with another background, so it's, you know, we're still learning. Huh?
It's not just related to this. I'm that one person at work who the IT never works for. Account login doesn't work. Background doesn't work. Everything fails with me. I'm the cursed one with the IT problems.
Yeah, the black cat.
Mike, I have a question for you. In your video, you mentioned that that R, you know, in your opinion, R and maybe even Python are becoming already obsolete, which sort of makes me nervous. I know we're just
Devin, somehow we cannot hear you. Or is it just me? Hello.
Yeah, I also didn't hear Devin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. At least for me.
I guess the judges are back in.
Yeah, since we're already over the 90 minutes, we'll resume this chat another time. So, as expected, it looks like you struggled, huh? Who is the spokesperson?
Yeah,
Jose Maria is the spokesperson.
I was given the enviable task of giving you the news after our deliberation. Thanks for your patience. As you can tell, we had a very fruitful and very interesting discussion. There was some debate, but in the end, we came to a consensus, and we have chosen as the two finalists or semifinalists, Penelope and Thomas. It was very close. You all had obviously very good and I think very interesting ideas, very useful ideas, very good presentations. There was a reason why you were all the semifinalists. It was very hard to choose, but Penelope and Thomas, congratulations, and thank you for your videos. Thank you, Roseanne and Marika also.
Thanks a lot, Jose Maria, and congratulations to Penelope and Thomas. So you will join Cici and Jose Miguel in the finals in Sydney. So that's very exciting. So before we leave, one thing I want to say clearly is thanks to all the 4 participants. As I said, whatever you have done, you know, even if you don't proceed to the finals, it's like, you know, it's excellent job. And this is something definitely you can value on your CV and show the link to the YouTube video. That's very good. I want to thank our 3 judges tonight for your time. I mean, tonight for me, but daytime for you or morning for Jose Maria. So thanks a lot for your time. One last thing I have to say, because you know, this is the last virtual session of this Young Actuaries World Cup, because the next session will be in Sydney in physical. So I want to thank particularly Carla, who has done a lot of work from the IAA Secretariat, who has given a lot. So I just want to thank her publicly. Carla, very well done for everything.
My pleasure working with this. Has been a really great experience, super fun, and communicating with all of you. So later today to Tomas and Penelope and the other 2 finalists, I'm going to be sending all the information required to move into Sydney.
And thank you, Fred, for this excellent idea and the excellent opportunity. Also for judges.
You're an inspiration for all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think this is going to be an institution now. So well done.
We hope so. And finally, last 5 people I would like to thank is the task force members. So Al, ECD, Martin, Henning, and Siju, who contributed a lot as well. So I think it's important to thank them. And we sincerely hope after that you know, like a sustainable World Cup can be considered. I mean, this is something to discuss, but hope you know, this can be a long-term initiative. So thanks a lot, everyone. I wish you a very good day and good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to all of you. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much.